Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here as we talk about this important topic in our community. We're gathered here today for a reason that we wish we were not, to talk about the ridiculous fact that we are seeing guns in the hands of young children. We're glad today that no one was hurt in what we had occur here, but we think we want to sound the alarms about this in our community before that happens, and that's why we're gathered here today. My name is Leon Hendricks. I'm the Executive Director of Communications for the Grand Rapids Public Schools, and want to introduce the team that will be speaking with you today. Of course, you see community leaders that you recognize behind me from all facets of local government and local activism and leaders in our community. We called them on short notice, and when we call and ask for support for our young people and our scholars, they come without further question. So today you'll hear from our Chief of Staff and Executive Director of Public Safety, Larry Johnson. He'll talk about what occurred and take questions once we are done. You'll hear from our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Ledrian Roby, and you'll hear from the Grand Rapids Police Department Chief, Eric Windstrom. So without further ado, Mr. Johnson.
Again, thank you for being here, but more importantly, we want to thank our community members, our staff, and all of our teachers who were able to join us. To say, it's an understatement to say that we're disappointed that we're here on this cause. When a child, an elementary age child, bring a weapon into a school, it concerns us all. But we've said that our schools is nothing more than a microcosm of our community, and what's happening in our community is evidence now and is on the doorsteps of our schools. So what happened here today, this morning, at about 9:50, one of our teachers was alerted by another scholar that a scholar was in possession or possibly in possession of a handgun. Our teachers who are trained, who've gone through safety training, along with the administrative staff here, acted very swiftly and within minutes was able to contain the scholar in question, obtain a book bag, and retrieve a weapon. Unfortunate, the weapon was not loaded, no magazine along with it, but bad enough, the child had a weapon in school. Now it goes to a bigger problem in our community that I'm sure others will speak about, but it's something that we do not want to happen in our schools, nor in our community. And I want to reiterate, a child brought a gun, but that child brought that gun from a home where an adult should have been responsible for securing that weapon. And so our cry, and my personal cry to this community, if we're serious about reducing gun violence, it starts with our youth. It starts with parents securing weapons if they have children living in their homes. We encourage our parents to check their scholars' book bags to and from school to ensure that these weapons are not making it to school. And our hats go off to all of our teachers, our administration staff here at César Chavez Elementary School who acted appropriately, swiftly. We also thank the Grand Rapids Police Department and their staff who arrived here to assist us in this investigation. Our security staff members who arrived here this morning and who was able to work with staff here and really not only keeping order in the building, maintaining order, but continuing a regular school day as much as we can before this information was released to the public. Again, we're going to continue to do all that we can to keep our schools safe. We have a committed superintendent whose focus and number one focus is and always been school safety and security, because nothing can happen without a safe environment. And she has supported that, this community has supported that, and all the individuals you see standing behind me has one way or another supported our efforts in keeping the Grand Rapids Public Schools safe. We will do that, and we'll continue to work with our parents and our community to make that happen. I'll have Dr. Roby step up at this point, and then at the conclusion we'll get an opportunity to answer any questions.
Good afternoon. I stand before you not only frustrated, concerned, but also a sense of relief. I am relieved today that no one was hurt, but it terrifies me to think about the what ifs, what could have happened. It should concern every member of our community to think about what will happen if we don't do something about guns in the hands of our children. I am frustrated that this isn't the first time this year that this has happened in our district. It's happened 3 different times. Our staff have taken guns away in our schools on 3 separate occasions. I find it even more concerning that these confiscations are involving middle school and elementary young people. This is a storyline that keeps repeating itself over and over throughout our country. In too many cases, it's resulted in catastrophic and deadly outcomes. We can't continue to sit by and allow tragedy like this to occur. Today, I stand with you, the Grand Rapids Police Department, the Kent County Prosecutor, and members of our Grand Rapids School Security Executive Team, and also members of our community. We are committed to finding solutions to support our children. My ask, those of you who are listening right now, this is the message. Secure your weapons. Secure your weapons. Lock them up. Store them away. Keep them out of the hands of our children. We are working right now to put together a community conversation and forum around this very topic of securing our schools. We will share more information soon about next steps, and we want our community to join us. Another feeling that I have as I stand here today is hope. I am always hopeful and wanting to make sure that we protect our school and our community and protect our scholars from a sense of hope. When this community comes together, there is no limit to what we can do for the future of our young people. I will turn it over to Chief Winstrom.
Thanks, Dr. Roby. So I first want to say how proud I am to live in a community where we have leaders like Dr. Roby who really put the safety of our children as number one. It's pretty shocking, a 7-year-old with a handgun in a school. But I'll tell you, this is not a GRPS issue. This is not a school issue. The Grand Rapids Police Department has recovered many handguns off 11-year-olds, now today as young as 7 years old. And we're going to do what we can to take illegally possessed guns off the street. But I'll tell you, I don't want to have police officers taking handguns off of middle school kids, off of elementary school kids. Part of that is recently we had Public Act 17 recently passed. That's going to come into place it's going to take effect in a couple months, where it's going to finally put the law in place where you have to secure your guns from children at home. There's no reason parents and adults in Grand Rapids and our community shouldn't be doing that right now. Do not let these kids get a hold of these guns. Thank you.
All right, we'll now take some questions if you have them from anyone who's here. Marissa.
First question that I have, do you guys have any indication as to how that student got the gun? I'm assuming it was from home, and I guess, are you guys speaking with their parents, or are you guys considering filing charges against their parents?
We're confident that the weapon came from the child's home. We are working with the Grand Rapids Police Department, their detective unit, and I'm sure they will work with Kent County Prosecutor as to next steps. But this is, remember, this is a 7-year-old that we're talking about, a child. I think our focus we'll focus with the police department on what their next steps need to be as it relates to this.
I guess, just real quick, a follow-up. This might be more so for you, Chief Lister.
Sure.
Can you talk about your perspectives? I mean, obviously, I'm assuming they have talked to that child's parents. What was the child's parents' reaction to this?
Sure, and I just want to note for the record, we're joined by Prosecutor Becker. This is an extremely serious incident. Obviously, we're talking about a 7-year-old child here, so we're out treating that 7-year-old as a victim. So let's move on to the adults involved in this, and that's where our investigation is leading. This happened just earlier on today, so the investigation is in progress, but we're going to look to things as in, is the gun registered? The adult who had the gun, are they legally allowed to have the gun? And then we'll follow that investigation from there. But certainly we will be considering charges against the adult as we have in the past, as recently as I believe it was about 6 months ago or so, where we had a 13-year-old killed in our city by another 13-year-old who had access to an adult's gun. And that adult was charged with involuntary manslaughter. So if the facts bring us to a point where we can get a case over to the prosecutor, that's certainly the direction we'll go.
Thanks, Chief. Next question. Taylor.
This is a question for the superintendent. Being this is the third incident that's happened, is metal detectors being added to schools? Is that being considered, adding more of them to more schools?
So we are engaging in all different metrics around how to make sure our schools are safe. And and Mr. Johnson will certainly speak on this as well. Metal detectors are not, they are a deterrent, but that we don't want to also provide a false sense of that will be the only tool. Our best tool is our relationships with our young people. And this, the young scholar who shared with his teacher that he thought his classmate had a gun in his backpack, that means that he trusted the adult in his life to share that. And so that is our best form of defense. Our next level is just to have constant conversations with our young people that guns are not toys. But we are having, to answer your question, we are exploring what are some additional opportunities that we can have for safety in our schools. Remember, this is a place of education. We do not want our schools to become prisons. We want our schools to be a place where young people can thrive and learn and grow. And just as many people who are for metal detectors, there's also an equal number of families that are against it because they want their children to have a childhood.
Mr. J, no, I think Dr. Roby covered it very well. We'll look at all the tools necessary to keep our schools safe, and we realize, and I realized long time ago, it's not going to be the hardware that keep our schools safe, but it's the hardware. It's the relationships that we build with our students, with our families, and how we work with our community. Again, this is not a Grand Rapids Public School problem. It's not a Grand Rapids Police Department. This is a community problem, and our community have to come together to resolve these decisions that our young kids make in this community. If we're going to make an impact, then we all have to work together. All the folks that you see standing behind us, all of us are committed to that, and we're going to do that and push our community to offer something better and choices better for our young people in this community.
Others.
So we will follow our district disciplinary policy, which obviously it's about safety for our young people. This is one of those experiences where typically when we make policies around weapons, we are thinking of older children. And so we want to ensure, and I think Chief Winstrom alluded to, this child is also a victim because at 7 years old, the ability to make decision-making around what's safe and not, we have to treat it as such. And so we will follow our appropriate procedures, also differentiating the age of this young person.
Thank you, Dr. Roby. Other questions?
Can you speak as to why this child brought the gun to school? I don't know if you talked to him or...
We can. We've had an opportunity to talk with his parents, talk to him. Police department's had an opportunity to talk to him, and right now we're gonna allow the police department to continue the investigation, to take that where it needs to go, and we won't speak on the reasons. But what we can say, there was no threats. It was not involved in any threats at all.
Other questions? Marissa?
Just know over the past year, we've reported a lot on threats to school safety in general and the importance of speaking up. Obviously, the person speaking, the student speaking up today really helped, bring this to a conclusion. I guess, can you just talk a little bit about the importance? What difference can it make when a student decides to speak up when they do see something in their schools or hear something?
Yeah, it's vitally important. They said, hardware over hardware. Metal detectors can be great, but it's those relationships. So many times have we got information on a crime after the fact, and then talked to individuals in that offender's life and found that there were those signs ahead of the time. There was that information that was out there that could have stopped that. So what we want is that information before any sort of violence occurs, and just building that sort of trust in this school, which this GRPS administration has done so good, so that these young people know that they'll be supported and that they can come forward with that information. That's really the key to building this safety as well, aside from the adults at home.
Others?
Follow-up question. I know you have mentioned Public Act 17, which is the safe storage law that was passed through the legislature. Just in general, when we're talking about the potential charges that the adults in this case could face, can you just walk us through what other charges, what
Well, sure, it could be as far as, like I mentioned, gun crime. So if the individual is a convicted felon, they're not allowed to possess a gun. If the gun was stolen, if the gun's not registered. Otherwise, we're talking, this is a 7-year-old child, we're talking contributing to the delinquency of a minor. This minor is a victim, himself. So once we get all the facts of the case, we'll be better able to examine that. But like you mentioned, Public Act 17, which isn't in effect yet, but it will be in a few months, that is directly on point with this. So this would, if that Public Act was in effect today, this would be a 93-day misdemeanor at least.
Other questions?
All right, thank you all for being here. We do want to again remind our community that if there's information, these are faces that can be approached, people who care about our community that you can come forward to. For those who may want to remain anonymous, our OK to Say program is designed just for that. Kids can send text messages and remain anonymous to let the adults and authority know that there is a concern around any type of safety matter, whether it's in or outside of school. And of course, our partners at Silent Observer, they are manned around the clock to take information from the public about any crime involving the schools or otherwise. It takes a full community effort. That includes you all, our partners in the media, and of course, those of you watching this message from home. Thank you for being here, and we'll be around if you have questions after. Take care.